Hello again, YouTube. I just went and uploaded the last video. And while I was there, I was watching a motivational video from somebody else. And I forget what her name is, but she's got some powerful messages. In this specific one, she reminded me that the life that you want isn't... You're never going to be ready for it. You have to go out and you have to go after it, or something to that effect. She said it a lot more powerful than I did. But, I kind of got, upset and defensive about it, because haven't I tried? Haven't I fucking tried? And nothing's ever worked, and this was just about, obviously, it's not what you want. The reason that everything in your life isn't working is because it's not what you want. I can tell you what, I don't want to be walking around, bumming cigarettes from, smokers' posts, Don't want to be, digging out of the fucking garbage. But I also, look around and there aren't options, there aren't things to do. And it's just some people are just well, then you have to start something. You have to do something new. It's just do what? It's all fucking hopeless. But if you really believe that, you wouldn't be here now, would you? Or maybe you're just comfortable being here, because, change is scary. And you're just what kind of changes do I need to make? I don't fucking know, because even if I had unlimited funds, I think I would still be, miserable and unhappy. Maybe it is just, something in the brain, or maybe it's not, Maybe I was right the first time, and the entire world is just, because the thing is, right, if I ever, make it big in some way, let's say that, my art YouTube channel takes off because, I start making these amazing animations or something like that, and then I make enough money, and then I say, screw all of you, give me your money, I'm just perpetuating the same cycle as everyone else, and I don't want to perpetuate that cycle, and just get mine, and then, you figure out something else for yourself, And it's just well, why do you have to be the one to solve all the world's problems? Isn't everybody told that they can't solve all the world's problems? And that one therapist that I spoke to, he's just well, every therapist that I've spoken to is just you gotta put on your own mask before you take care of anybody else. And this is applying to airplanes, You're supposed to put your mask on first so you can put on other people's masks for them. But the thing is, all the people that have masks already put on, they're not putting masks on other people. They are selling back the masks at a super high rate because of inflation. It's just oh, we only have 4 masks and there's 10 people, so if you pay this exorbitant sum, then you get one of these masks, Man, I struggle with the word masks. Masks. Well, went to go scavenge the Dunkin' Donuts dumpster, but they didn't have anything in there for me today. I don't know. I would like to believe it's some sort of sign. It's just you don't need to be doing this, bro. You need to be doing something else. And it's just what else? What else? I keep trying to have conversations with God and whatever. I'm just like, I get no answers from him, her, they, them, don't know. Waiting on a sign, and I just keep being told there is not going to be a sign. There is no sign. Stop waiting. Just do. And then it's just like, well, just do what? I'm waiting for instructions. And it's just like, what are you, a fucking sheep? Figure it out. Very helpful, thank you. But the thing is, I don't know. Why do I feel responsible for trying to solve all the world's problems? Because we all deal with the same issues. We all have the same problems. So if, even the very basic, but it doesn't matter because no matter what, it's just not going to work. That's pretty nihilistic. People like the world the way it is, though. They like functioning in it. It's just you that's unhappy. That can't be true. There's a lot of struggling people. Moment of silence. But what do I want to do? I mean, I've tried, I tried the YouTube thing, and then you realize you didn't want to do that. You tried the art thing, but you realize that, quote unquote, you don't want to do that. And it's just like you have mental issues when it comes to that, because it's just like you don't want to draw things on a page, you want to experience life. You want to, you want to actually be a character in life, You don't want to just like invent stories and live in those stories. You want to actually experience life, And I can't stand how mundane most of life is, It's just like the most engaging conversation that most people have is, oh, how's the weather? Oh, it's great, it's sunny. We have a high of 84, and you get the point, or the other engaging conversation. So what did you bring for lunch today? I brought a bologna and cheese sandwich. It's just like, nobody cares, Otherwise, it's just like, oh, what TV show are you watching? Just like, who fucking cares? I mean, sometimes, there's a time and a place for everything. Like, what am I supposed to do? Be the person that starts setting up protests? And protests for what? For why? What would I protest against? Vote of no confidence for the president? That's too... While it's a big thing, it's not important enough. Because you change the president and things are still going to be the same, more or less. Just like, how do you actually change the world? And, well, the answer is simple. Through small actions. Like, the wind will blow sand against a rock. And as more sand blows against that rock, it will become a mound of sand. And as that mound gets bigger, it eventually becomes a dune. And like everything else, that's how it works, Small steps in a direction, Although sometimes the opposite is also true. If you make one hectic, chaotic change, then everything else, shakes into place. problems in reverse. You know, I don't want to be a chess instructor. You know, I don't want to drive to people's houses or have people come to my house. I mean, my bug-infested home that's a fucking slob, and, you know, but, you know, I suppose I'm a little ashamed to say this, I don't know why, but I don't like wearing clothes, you know, so I don't want to have a job that requires me to be dressed, you know, and I know that everybody and their mother is looking for work from home jobs, you know, on the internet and stuff like that. And, you know, with like AI nowadays, it's just like, you know, AI does the work that many people do better. AI does it better than they could do it, you know, so people are being made obsolete, you know, and it's saving the corporations and I mean, you have AI artists now, you know, and Disney's like firing a bunch of their employees last time I checked. And Disney is disgusting because they just keep remaking their old movies over and over again. But then again, I saw this clip earlier today, and there was this woman that was just like, you know, why do you keep asking for an original film, and when we give you one, you don't watch it? This one called Elio, and I'm just like, I mean, it didn't cross my feed, you know, at any point, but then again, I don't have Disney Plus anymore. I can't do this anymore. This is pathetic. This is sad. This is not a life worth living, you know? And I don't know how other people, you know, make their lives worth living. I imagine that most people are just like stoned all the time or drunk all the time, and, you know, they're just trying to fill the void with, like, you know, food or sex or, you know, other things, so they just don't feel how empty everything is, you know? I mean, that's what I used to do. It didn't work. It doesn't work. Or maybe it just doesn't work for me. You know? Thinking about job fairs and how, well, I've never been to one. I'm thinking more of like online job search query things and how they're all like bullshit. You know, everybody wants a job. Everybody's posting jobs that nobody wants, and their salaries or their pay is like extremely low, and the criteria for employment is extremely high. Just like, oh, you know, you need this degree, and you also need like 5 to 8 years of experience for an entry-level position. It's just like, well, I mean, I was talking to the AI engine, and, you know, we pretty much concluded that the options were, you know, get a dead-ass job, you know, fucking go work at the market basket as a cashier, you know, and, well, I just don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to go there because they dress up in shirt and tie and apron, and as I said, you know, I'd rather not wear any clothes, you know, than, you know, have to like dress up and go over there and do customer service, and, you know, because when I left the electrical field, you know, I had told myself I need to do something that builds on things that I was already going to do or trying to do already, you know. And, you know, once upon a time, you know, I thought maybe I could become a chess grandmaster. But based on watching other people, it looks like that ship has sailed. You know, I'm too old, you know, and you were supposed to start that when you were like wee young, you know, so I can only be an amateur, really. I probably don't even have like the capacity to get even the lower ranking titles. Not to mention, whatever. This is all pretty so hopeless. I'm just talking to myself, making other people feel bad about who's watching this. People come in, they watch 2 seconds, and they immediately flip off. Just like, oops, I didn't mean to click on that. That was a mistake. I hate the sound of his fucking voice. I wish he was more animated. Just like, why isn't he making me laugh? This isn't funny. I wanted to watch something that was funny. I don't even know what the tags are. I don't even put tags. I don't even care. I'm not playing the algorithm games. I don't care. I don't want to build an empire. Because I don't want to be trapped in something that I don't actually care about that much. And it's just like, what do you care about? You keep saying that, a bunch of things, Do you just want to, live a comfortable life where you make enough money? It's just like, well, no, because then it would be empty, Just like the whole dating world is fucking empty, and I fucking hate people. I'm like an introverted person. Like, I'll be nice to people, There was a guy earlier today. I actually had 2 nice encounters with people. When I go to the Dunkin' Donuts to use the Wi-Fi, I sit near the curb, and although I'm not homeless, people now assume that I'm homeless, which is kind of sad. But they've been offering to get me something to eat or something, which is extremely generous. And I wave them away and I say, no, I'm fine. Because honestly, that's always been my instant response. If somebody asks me for something that I want, if somebody offers something to me, my hardwired response is to refuse it. No, thank you. Even if it's something that I wanted. And that's something that stemmed from childhood, because I was always told to refuse anything, or I would get punished. And I just never really broke out of it, I guess. So usually someone has to ask me something twice. I'll be like, hey, do you want a drink? And I'll say no the first time. And then just like, are you sure you don't want a drink? And then I'll be like, actually, I would like a drink. I was gonna go walk over to Market Basket to get my spaghetti, but unfortunately they close at 9. I should have went earlier, but I was just too tired, too exhausted, too low energy. So I guess I don't get anything to eat today, and that's a you problem, isn't it? You should have done something about it. You should be contributing to society or something. You should, I don't know, stop being so angry at people that are rich because they have more than you. Know your place at the fucking bottom. Just why do you think that you deserve more? I feel like that's unfair. I feel like I worked my ass off and none of it ever meant anything. And it was never a ladder. It was never you move up in the world. It's just you're here, the circumstances of your birth dictate the story, But that doesn't apply to everybody. Therefore, you have to become an exception. It's just well, not everybody is exceptional. Why do you keep putting me down constantly? Why can't you just support me? Because you're a fucking loser and nobody likes you. Well, that's true, but again, not helpful. I need to be told something else, because Because it's just like, what do you want me to do? Drink bleach? That sounds very unpleasant. You know? Because often I wonder to myself, you know, if there was a tablet that came, that if there was like a little tablet the size of an Advil, and you were told that if you take it before bed, you wouldn't wake up the next morning, would you take it? You know? And, you know, the promise is that, you know, you go to sleep and, you know, it won't hurt and you're just going to be gone. You know, would you take that tablet? And I still hesitate, you know. Would I take that tablet? You know, sometimes I say yeah. You know, I would just like pop in my mouth and I'd go to sleep and that would be it, you know. And just wouldn't wake up, you know. And then this entire fucking mess would be over. Just like, well, you need some serious psychological help, my brother. Just like, yeah, I know, but I don't think that they're equipped. So, I was thinking about like working on a farm, you know. But I don't want to give people control over me. I don't want people to give power over me. I don't want to give people power over me to tell me what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, why to do it, you know, what to dress, you know, when to take a shit, you know. Like, agency is important, you know, and if I was capable of crying, I'd probably start crying. But unfortunately, I'm not capable of crying because I'm so dead inside. You know? Like, sometimes I want to, like, go around and I just want to do, like, a survey. Just like, excuse me, what do you do for work? Oh, I just remembered. There's someone that has a YouTube channel called Career Ladder. You know? And so he's figuring out what people actually have for jobs. Because all jobs are, like, made up, you know? At some point, someone's just like, okay, I've got a new idea, and this is what it is. You know, once upon a time, I wanted to be a writer. I mean, I don't think that I've, like, completely given up on the idea, but the only reason that I haven't, well, there's many reasons why I haven't, but, if I were to write something, it would just go onto a shelf with billions of other books, you know, and it wouldn't stand out, you know. I don't know. That's just an excuse not to start, huh? Probably. You know, but when it comes to, like, writing, it's the same as art, you know. I can't do it with these conditions. But even if the conditions were improved, you still couldn't do it, now could you? That's not... It's probably not so good that, you know, I'm just in my own echo chamber, you know, constantly putting myself down like this, you know. It just seems so hopeless and pointless. Wow, that's pretty dark, dude. You need to, you probably need to smoke some ganja. That's not helpful, thank you very much. Just trying to make a joke, dude. I don't have split multiple personality disorder, just saying. I don't know. Maybe I do, who fucking knows. Just like, what am I supposed to do? You know, I tried to do the things that everybody else did, and it just didn't work. It didn't work for me, you know? Anyway, can't buy land to, even put a shed on it and live in that type of thing. Can't buy land. And even if I did buy land, I would have to pay taxes on that land. So, I couldn't just live as a hermit. And it's just like, do you even want to live as a hermit? It's just like, not necessarily. I want my own space, my own workshop. You keep saying these things, but you haven't built anything in your goddamn life. You just have these stupid ideas of making, Icarus wingsuits and, scuba gear that's based on, fish mimicry so people can breathe underwater. It's just like, but you haven't done anything about it, All you are is a fucking think tank, and all your ideas are fucking bad. You don't know anything, Jon Snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. And I suppose this is what thought paralysis is. Self-doubt, crippling self-doubt. It's just like, what do you mean? How is it self-doubt if I'm being unrealistic? If I know that I can't bench 200 pounds, why would I try? You know? This is all sad, and I'm sorry that I wasted your time and my time feeling sorry for myself. Trying to think in my mind, how do I get out of this? How do I rewrite the story? How do I rewrite the ending? How do I make it matter? Because I don't want to work at the Jersey Mike's making sandwiches, or working at the Subway making sandwiches, or picking out the garbage, or being a garbage man, or, do I just have to accept that my life is just going to be shit, and that's it? Just accept it. The sooner you accept it, the better you'll be. I thought about working on a farm earlier today. But then I realized that farm wages are a lot lower than regular wages. So a farmer gets paid a lot less. So, do I want to be a fucking farmer? I mean, if it's my own garden, probably. Like having my own land, having my own garden sounds interesting. I would want to get into the science side of it, make it like an automatic garden eventually. Maybe an indoor there are special farming things where you can grow things in water. Also greenhouse